So good morning, everyone. My name is Claire Lee. I am the Assistant Marketing Director for our international programs. And I have with me today Jennifer Olmstead, who is the Senior Marketing Director for the domestic programs, as well as Josh Rahm, our Director of Regulatory and Technical Affairs. And today we'll give an update on our current conditions, marketing programs, as well as a regulatory update. So I'm going to start off by talking about the roles of the California Walnut Board and the California Walnut Commission. Now, the board and the commission, we are two separate entities, but we all work for the California walnut industry. The board, it was founded in 1948 with the primary responsibility to build domestic demand. And what falls underneath the board is also production and post-harvest research, food safety, grades and standards, and regulatory matters. Now, fast forward from 1948 to 1987, and that's when the USDA started a program called MAP, the Market Access Program. And it was a program so that commodities like ourselves, we could take advantage of funding used for international marketing programs. Now, we couldn't take advantage of this funding through the board. It's the way it was structured. So the California Walnut Commission was created. So the primary responsibility of the commission is for international marketing. And what falls underneath that is health and nutrition, educating government officials, trade policy, and industry communications. This is just a quick snapshot of our the California Walnut Board and the commission. As you can see, we are lean and mean. We have 9 employees, as well as 2 consultants. Now on to a current update, starting with global challenges. The list of challenges here look very much like they did in 2020. COVID is still at the top of the list. And we're hearing from experts, they're shaking their crystal ball and they're saying, by the end of this year, we should get back to some sort of a normal economy. Now, shipping and transportation issues, that is still an issue for us. That has to do with a lack of labor, shortages of containers, empty ones being shipped back to China. Now, our federal as well as state government, they're working on short-term and long-term solutions for this. However, we do see this continuing throughout 2022. We also are facing a lot of competition in our markets, and I'll get into that more in the next few slides, as well as tariffs and other non-tariff issues that create obstacles for our industry. I want to touch just briefly first about the suspension of outbound inspection. It's regarding modernizing the marketing order. As I mentioned in the first slide, the board, it was created in 1948. So over the last 70 years, the rules that govern the board, they haven't changed. And in particular, the rules governing outbound inspections. So currently the USDA goes out and it inspects all outbound shipments to ensure they meet the USDA standards. But what we're finding is that current customer and markets, their conditions are greater than what the USDA is inspecting for. So that by having these inspections, it's a bit of a waste of time, energy, and effort. So we're changing the rule. It takes a bit of time to do that. We're in the process of doing that, but it can take up to 12 to 24 months to change this rule. There's a little glitch to this, and it's the fact that the board assessments are tied to these inspections. So the board is not able to collect assessments until this new rule has been made. Now, this is a chart of California walnut crop production. In 2011, our crop was at 460,000 tons. We set a record in 2020 at 783,000 tons. This year, we are expecting to reach 720,000 tons. Now, why does our production continue to grow? Well, there's a number of reasons, but one of them is new walnut plantings. This graph shows the number of acres of walnut trees that have been planted over the years. And in the next 3 years, we'll have 36,000 new acres coming into production. That just means larger and larger crops to come. sorry, I've lost my, there we go. This graph shows the comparison of California walnut production, which is the gold bar, to global production. And as you can see, global production is outpacing California walnut production. And that's just because of the countries that produce walnuts are producing more and more. And you'll see that in this next pie chart. The left pie chart, that is for crop year 2017-18. And as you can see, during that year, China produced 42% of all the walnuts in the world. USA was at 29% and Chile at 5%. Fast forward 5 years to the right pie chart, and you can see now China is almost producing 50% of all the walnuts in the world, and Chile has increased to 7%. Now, even though China produces the most walnuts in the world, it's the USA that still leads in world trade. The left pie chart, that's crop year 2016-17, USA was at 68% of world trade. And then you see that tiny little red sliver, that's China. They were only at 2% of world trade. Again, fast forward to crop year 2021 and all of the increased plantings all of these countries have been doing. China is now at 13% of world trade, and Chile has increased as well, up to 16%. And this graph, it shows what's been happening over the years regarding competitive shipment growth. It compares USA to Chile to China. And in 2011, very little competition for walnuts in the global market, hardly any at all. And if you look at the line and the red line and red bars, it kind of ticks along. China really isn't exporting. And then you hit 2017 and China is starting to export. And as you can see, over the last 3 years, they have really increased their exports in our markets. Now, what can we do about this? Well, we really can't stop them. But what we can do is continue to promote the California walnut difference. And what I mean by that is continue to promote our high food safety standards, the incredible climate our walnuts are grown in, our year-round consistency, our quality, everything the industry does every day is what we continue to promote. And I want to give you just an example of that. In our markets, we conduct consumer surveys every year. And in Korea, we ask the question, why do you choose California walnuts? And I want to read for you just a couple of their responses. One consumer said, I think that it's the image of California that really impresses. The sun and all the products that they grow over there means that farmers know what they're doing. Another consumer responded with, in my experience, California walnuts are better than walnuts from China. I'm always worried about food products coming from China due to safety and quality issues. And there's no worry when you buy from California. So that's the California walnut difference, and that's what we continue to promote in all of our markets. And this is my last chart. This shows the top 10 markets by destination for crop year 2020-21. Of course, the USA is our top market, followed by Germany and Turkey. And India wraps up our top 10. And now I'm going to pass this off to Jennifer Olmstead, who will be talking about our marketing programs. Jennifer?
Hi, sorry, it wasn't letting me unmute myself. Good morning, everyone. One of the key ways that the California Walnut Board and Commission provide value to the industry is by creating and sustaining consumer demand for walnuts through a variety of marketing programs. And we do this in the US market, as well as 9 export markets, which include Canada, the UK, Germany, Spain, India, Turkey, the UAE, Japan, and South Korea. Next slide. In our markets, we work to balance our consumer and trade marketing efforts according to the dynamics of each market so that we can drive demand. Consumer marketing could take form in a variety of different ways, including advertising, social media, and public relations efforts. And then trade marketing includes things like outreach to food manufacturers and retailers, food service operators, as well as health professionals. Trade programs are designed to stimulate purchase across all of our distribution channels. In our export markets, we're able to work directly with importers, distributors, and brokers to ensure that there's good availability in the market for California walnuts. We work with retailers, food manufacturers, as well as food service companies to demonstrate the value of purchasing walnuts and promoting walnuts. And this helps us get walnuts into the consumer's hands, whether it be in a package at a grocery store, or in a processed food product, or on a menu at a restaurant. For example, in the UK market, we have been working both with retailers who already carry California walnuts to conduct retail promotions, but also working with retailers that do not have California origin to get California walnuts into those stores. And our efforts to date have resulted in 1,600 additional locations now carrying California origin. Our programs are designed to move consumers through this purchase journey that you see here. We start by building broad awareness, and then we move through to education, and then consideration, and ultimately, of course, where we want them to be is making that purchase. And so we're going to share just a couple of examples on how this is done across our markets. Creating broad awareness is important to bringing people into this journey, and we do this through things like advertising, social media, and also working with influencers who are often trusted more than the brand themselves. We also provide ongoing education to talk about how to store walnuts, how to use walnuts, and educate consumers on the various health benefits that they provide. In the US market, for example, we had over 28 billion views of walnut messages in the media last year, the equivalent of every US adult seeing a walnut message more than 100 times. And we know that the health messaging is a driver of consumer purchase. And we saw that the media covered 64 different scientific papers that have been supported by the California Walnut Commission just last year alone. And then we also reach out to health professionals because they are giving dietary advice. Oftentimes, this is people like registered dietitians and those who are counseling people on how to improve things like their heart health or manage their weight. To give you an example of one of these programs to raise awareness in India, we did a multimedia campaign that included television advertising, print advertising, social media, and partnerships with influencers. The TV ads reached 1.2 billion consumers per week for 4 weeks. And when we evaluated the campaign, we found that 80% of consumers recalled seeing the ad, and 98% said that that advertising made them want to go buy California walnuts. So in order to continue to get good value from this campaign, we are running the same creative in 2022. And as consumers move into consideration, we want to be there to provide a variety of useful ideas and inspiration. We do this through recipes and recipe videos and blog posts. And then, of course, being there at the point of purchase. And we do this through both in-store programs as well as online advertising. In the past, such as in 2021, we did a National American Heart Month program where we partnered with 34 retailers operating over 10,000 locations to promote walnuts during the month of February. During this time, our advertising reached over half of US households, and we saw an average sales lift for California walnuts of 22.5%. We have also worked to conduct advertising on some of the online platforms. With people shopping more at home, we wanted to be on Instacart and Amazon and other platforms such as Kroger. Last year's programs drove over $1.1 million in sales, and these were just a pilot program. And so we are continuing this effort in the current marketing year. And now I'm going to move it into research. Our health research, production, and post-harvest research are other critical components to the work that we do to help advance the industry. We have been conducting health research for over 3 decades and have a highly regarded diversified portfolio with over 200 published papers to date. It is important to continue to conduct health research for public health recommendations, for example, the US dietary guidelines that come out every 5 years. But it also gains attention of both the media as well as consumers with new information about the benefits of consuming walnuts. You'll see here the bulk of the program is in heart health. That's where we started, but we do have a diversified portfolio, as I mentioned. So looking at things like cancer and cognitive health and gut health, just to name a few of those. And then our program is guided by a health research advisory council. This is an independent group of nutrition experts, and they provide us guidance on where best to go next in terms of research that will benefit the industry. Here's a snapshot of the various projects that we have in place now, and there are some newer areas, so things like sleep and immunity that are really high on consumers' radars right now. And most of our research are human clinical trials, which is considered the gold standard when it comes to health research. But we also have looked at large epidemiological studies, and this is where you're looking at groups of thousands of people and looking at correlations between their walnut intake and various disease outcomes. So you may have heard of a paper that published from Harvard last August. It's been one of our most covered papers to date. And they found that regular walnut consumption was associated with improved longevity. People that consumed walnuts on average 5 times a week had a 14% less risk of dying from any cause, 25% less risk of dying from heart disease, and on average, they lived 1.3 additional years compared to people that did not consume walnuts. So this was a very popular news story. Obviously, people in general are very interested in improving their lifespan. So very positive for the industry in general. So now I'm going to turn it over to Josh Rahm, who's going to talk about production research.
Yeah, thank you, Jenna, for great material there, information, and looking at the importance of these research programs. As Jennifer mentioned, production research over the past almost 4+ decades, we've seen 180+ projects, combining that with post-harvest research, well over 200 research projects that have been done and supported by the board here. So the fiscal year 21-22, you can see these allocations and combining those short and long range solutions to advance orchard profitability and industry competitiveness and staying power, from the varietals, rootstock breeding, plant pathology, entomology, orchard management, and all these great projects that we've seen the PIs and stakeholders talk about here earlier. So very happy to continue to support those things and add value to the industry on the production research side. Now, looking at the post-harvest research side, the pipeline here, we can take a look at that and see how the industry funding is allocated to post-harvest research. The green slice in the bottom is aimed at extending, about 55% of the portfolio. We're looking at shelf life, developing tools to better detect quality issues at an earlier stage. This is becoming increasingly important as we try to find new product ideas for walnuts. Many of these products, as most know, require extended shelf life, and the remaining funding split between food safety, some product disinfestation, and industry-wide product testing, as well as sustainability byproduct utilization. So looking at some of the current areas with shelf life, food safety, rancidity, byproduct alternative uses, and a couple of those to note right now that pretty excited about are just looking at ways for using concrete, walnut shells as an internal curing agent in concrete, use in hydroponic plant production, and using hulls as a part of poultry feed. So a couple exciting things in the mix right now, and looking forward to have some additional alternatives post-harvest. With record crop comes record hulls and shells. So we're looking at these additional ways to add to the value stream for our growers. And moving into technical and regulatory affairs now, would like to really give a snapshot from 21-22, continued engagement here with the 10+ federal policy and regulatory measures engaged in, 16 plus state bills in the Assembly and Senate. That's with ag coalitions closely monitoring, 15 plus state and policy regulatory measures. That brings us to well over 40 engaged in and closely monitoring of impact to the industry. So you can see these topics of engagement from market access, health safety, grower and handler, industry funding, incentives and relief, transportation, labeling, Prop 65, pesticides, air quality, labor, water, energy sustainability, conservation, climate. We'll get into some more of these specific things now and the next steps. And with the legislative session, the new bills being introduced, that deadline was Friday. You can bet the list is going to expand, and we're continuing to navigate through those areas and looking at items to be engaged in to benefit the growers and industry members. Moving forward to some additional regulatory updates on the pesticide side of things. You can see there's been a lot of discussion going into blight season. What are we looking for? Spray schedules. There's been some developments in the EU. I think it's really important to clarify here. While there was a non-renewal decision adopted by the EU, that affects the EU and their farmers. So they had until January 4th to use remaining supply 2022. As far as the US is concerned, there's an MRL still established, and that would require additional reviews by the European Commission, and using product following label instructions right now in the US, having those MRLs right now, but don't see any major concerns for the present and upcoming crop year. If there's any more questions and things develop, they're going to continue to notify the industry first and foremost. The Section 24C, we have a couple additional items with Dithane and Champ WG formerly receiving those SLN label approvals, now available through usage for through December 31st, 2025. So a couple additional things, if should there be standing water in orchards, have those approved through the 2025 year. Now, glyphosate, a couple things here. EPA concluded its draft biological evaluation, and basically the likely adverse effect on 93% of endangered species and 96% of critical habitats. This is really based on EPA assumptions of maximum use rates, extrapolated from individual product labels and not the actual crop and non-crop uses of the product. So here in the U.S., the California Walnut Commission have worked with our growers, industry members across the state to provide some of those practical and science-based real-world uses, with the intent and impact of continuing to have this product practically available for not only the shorter midterm, but longer term. So there's very little thought that glyphosate will, quote unquote, disappear from ag because of multiple settlements being reached by Bayer across the country and internationally. And in the EU, glyphosate's approved in 2022, closely monitoring that review process for registration, as EU being one of our big markets. But as long as we have a product available, glyphosate and everything, we're engaged here to protect and preserve that for our growers across the state. So a couple other things here. I know time's a little bit tight, a lot of items to cover still, but another one that's come up, the EU MRLs have been a big deal. So phosmet or imidin has been something that has come up. So phosmet, the EU non-renewal decision does not immediately affect any uses in the US. However, for commodities treated with phosmet and exported to the EU, those may have some potential impact moving past 2023, but the existing MRO evaluation have been initiated as of last month by the European Food Safety Authority. So the California Walnut Commission, we've continued to fight for those existing MRLs still being in place and looking at all options to maintain those MRLs with the registrant and supporting the continuation there. That's one item, product still available, good to use for phosmet, working closely with the registrant. A long list of EU MRL adjustments, but rest assured, if anything impacts walnuts, we are engaged on that. Moving forward to some additional state updates. So we've heard about seeing this DPR pesticide notification system. They're moving forward with implementation. You can see a timeline here, having that money earmarked in the state budget. So probably some of the biggest news right now, I mean, the California Walnut Commission, we've been actively engaged, ag-specific focus group, the listening sessions, providing input on making practical and workable systems, looking at continuing to say these are for restricted use pesticides only. We should not have to open that up to a much greater range. So we're continuing to hold that line there. And probably some of the newest updates is that these pilot areas, these counties have been introduced. So Stanislaus County, the community of Grayson, there's the county ag commissioner, there's going to be a pilot there. Anticipating April 2022, talk to your local county ag commissioner there if you're in Grayson or the Stanislaus County area, but there's going to be some more information coming out on that. So thought that would be an update of impact to walnuts. Now, I want to run through a couple other things on the list here, so I can't hit them all right now, but looking at the chloropicrin label updates, the CWC has been engaged with DPR and TriCal, ensuring label amendments on chloropicrin have been completed to mitigate additional constraints on growers. So the label previously stated fumigation will be followed by disc, ring roller, land plane, smooth roller, and a cult-eye packer. That's been amended and formally approved by the DPR to now state the word or instead of and, allowing growers to not need a cultipacker following the field fumigation process. So a couple play of words there, but it does make a big difference. We notice all this here at the California Walnut Commission, and we'll continue to defend those items and alleviating some of the previous constraints, confusions, and interpretations on the matter. So any additional questions there, feel free to reach out. Wanted to touch on the FDA agricultural water use on produce FSMA. So there's going to be an additional webinar coming up. The FDA is holding on February 25th from 5:45 a.m. to 1:45 p.m. Pacific time. These will be recorded and available. They're going to be taking public comments, and rest assured, California Walnut Commission is going to comment on this and make sure that things are matching up with walnuts and not having us treat it as a leafy green or additional crop that is not a tree nut. So we want to continue to maintain that piece. And we've also been engaged on supportive of legislative changes to protect farmers' rights and information from a Public Record Act or PRA request. Currently, there's no legislation for protection of release of information that CDFA collects for the produce safety program. So because of the current status, the intent to develop legislative language that protects the release of commodity, PIN, farm size, and economic information on farms that is collected during an inspection or foodborne outbreak investigation. CWC, as well as other ag stakeholders, we really want to further protect items like this from the present or future release. And we're going to continue to be working towards encouraging legislation that protects growers across the state. I wanted to add one more thing, and then we can go to the next slide, but there's going to be a Western States webinar for the food safety for the agricultural water used on produce FSMA rule. And a Western State webinar is going to be from 10 to 11 p.m. on March 11th, the National Association of State Departments of Ag, or NASDA, and the CDFA. So if you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out. We'll move on to the next slide here. And I want to pick a few things here, just mentioning with the $1.1 billion for climate smart agriculture being announced last fall, and some of the additional areas of opportunities. There's the Healthy Soils program, so there's still some additional program opportunities there. So if you haven't submitted the application there, would encourage any grower, you have until 5 p.m. Pacific time on Friday or until funds are expended. So just something to follow up on and see. I would just double check there with CDFA, HSP. If not, funding will be coming back around for next fall. And those that did engage, appreciate the engagement and questions and being involved there. I would probably want to run down to the Climate Smart Ag Commodity Program. So out of all these, we can talk all these other items longer, but rest assured we're engaged on those. I just wanted to make mention of the Climate Smart Ag Program with Ag Secretary Vilsack. He announced that USDA is investing $1 billion in partnerships to support America's climate smart farmers, ranchers, and forest landowners. So this new partnership for climate smart commodities is going to basically finance pilot projects that create market opportunities for U.S. ag and forestry products that use climate smart practices, including innovation, cost-effective ways to measure and verify greenhouse gas benefits. So timeline, where to apply, grants.gov by April 8th for the first round of funding. We're looking at proposals from $5 million to $100 million. And then May 27th of this year, the second funding pool, those proposals would be anywhere from $250,000 to just south of $5 million. So that's something that really, whether implementing climate smart production practices, what's currently going on at the orchard level, activities and systems on working lands, measuring, quantifying, monitoring, and verifying the carbon and greenhouse gas emission benefits associated with those practices, certainly intended to develop markets and promote the resulting climate smart commodities, and would encourage growers, researchers, PIs to continue to engage there and look at capitalizing on these opportunities and adding value to the industry. So any of these other items we can talk about further, feel free to reach out. Would be more than happy to spend some time there. I know we're a little tight on time, so we'll open the floor now to questions, and thank you everyone for the opportunity this morning to present.
Super, thank you very much. So no quiz in this section, so we have, probably 5 minutes, a little more now, if we wanted to, for any questions. I don't see any questions in the question and answer section, so